Guys, we gotta talk about Resident Evil 4 VR. Resident Evil 4 VR came out on the PSVR2 last year on December 7th, 2023. Now, it's been a year since then, and I honestly feel like now that it's around Halloween time, it's time to really give this appreciation to what Resident Evil 4 VR really is. I don't even have a script for this video. This all comes from the heart because I genuinely love this game. Now, Capcom did drop 2 PSVR2 ports last year, and honestly, it's kind of insane that they dropped 2 bangers within like a 12-month period. That's pretty impressive, especially for studios that don't really touch VR like that. Now, I do have to admit, I've never actually finished or even got past probably the first few minutes of RE4 before playing the PSVR2 version. I did buy the version that came out on Quest like a few years ago, but honestly, it didn't look too good, and I was good. I even bought the remake when it came out, but honestly, it just didn't feel scary. Like, there's certain Resident Evil games that have like a really good horror element, especially RE8, and that one was a little different because I was scared from the beginning. If you play the beginning of RE8, you know what I'm talking about. That first part, when you go into the woods, terrifying. But honestly, RE4 felt different for me because I think when you're in third person, especially in these type of horror games where you have guns, you have ammo, you have these different things that can protect you. And then you got Leon, who's already overpowered and honestly an anime character, but we're gonna talk about that later. There's sort of a disconnect in a lot of third person kind of action horror games. It's not like games like Evil Within. Evil Within did pretty good, but RE4, especially flat, I didn't really feel the appeal that a lot of people felt for the series. It's different with a Resident Evil game like Resident Evil 2 because you really feel the horror straight from the beginning because that police department is creepy and Leon is a lot weaker in that game compared to RE4 where he's basically like a demigod, taking hits from these like eldritch demons and stuff like that, but basically next to no damage. Leon in this game was different. We're not gonna talk about it yet, but I promise you we're gonna get to that because holy shit, that it blew my mind. But I think when you put a game like this in VR, it totally changes the game. Because a lot of stuff that you see in third person Resident Evil 4 is like, okay, that's creepy, that's a little terrifying. But when you see it in first person VR, and you're standing face to face with a lot of that stuff, it hits really different. Like, there's a lot of different enemies in this game that you should not see in VR. And the first one we're gonna talk about is the Regenerator. When the Regenerator came around the corner for the first time, my heart exited my body, took a vacation, and like spent the winter somewhere. That was probably one of the creepiest things that I've ever seen in VR. And the worst part about the Regenerators are just, one, the way they look weird. And then two, the eyes are creepy, the face is creepy, and it's just, it's weird. It's weird because you know you have to kill it. And especially when you're shooting a Regenerator, it's like, okay, this thing is functionally immortal. It comes back to life. And then you have to figure out a way to kill it. And it's trying to hit you and it's jumping at you in VR. Another enemy that freaked me out were the weird tentacle head things. I did not like those because why? It didn't look right. It's like, it's weird seeing something like with your own eyes in first person. And you have to take concept of, okay, this is actually happening. I feel like when you're playing Resident Evil 4 and third person, you don't really get that type of wow and, you know, what the fuck. There was genuinely a lot of times during this game where I just stopped and stared at something that was new happening in front of me. And another thing that made me really fall in love with this port of Resident Evil 4 is the environments. There's a lot of really dope environments in this game that I feel like just really spark in first person. And one that definitely comes to mind is the castle. The castle was really cool to explore. It wasn't a very annoying part of the game, but it was okay. I gotta stop on that part. It was so annoying. I hated going through that castle because there was so much bullshit there, but it was so good. It was such a good environment to go through. And there was a lot of fun moments that we had in that castle. Another part of the game that had me just really creeped out and was like, yikes, was the facilities. When you go to the facilities and you have to go against that really tall, like dark scorpion creature thing, oh my God. That was an experience for all the wrong reasons. That was so scary. There's a lot of things in this game that just are weird, man. And the main thing is there's no barrier between you and a lot of these enemies. Like, if they grab you, they really grab you, and you kind of have to deal with that. One thing that I wish that RE4 VR would have had is pretty much interactivity. So like in different VR games like Half-Life Alyx or any notable VR game, you can pick up objects from around the world, look at them, stuff like that. But at the same time, I get why they didn't do that. Because honestly, what do you think when you think of RE4? You think combat, you think atmosphere, you think environments, you think the enemies, boss design, and stuff like that. And I feel like they focus on the right things that make a game a great game and make, especially this VR game, a great game. And to be frank, the interactivity thing is really just a nitpick for like long-term VR guys like myself. Another part I feel like they really improved on is the companion system for RE4. Now, like I said before, I haven't played the original game, but I did see some clips and it actually looked like a straight bot in that original game. And I know I would have hated it, but I can say that in the remake, she's surprisingly competent and a lot easier to handle than the original game. Usually I hate having weak companions for these type of games, but it made for some really fun sections where you have to be from a distance and actually aim your shots to get enemies off of her while she completes tasks. And I also like how Capcom did the parts where you play as Ashley. Those were some of the best parts of this game, because I mean, you don't have a weapon, you don't have, you know, the invincibility of Leon Kennedy. You're just a girl in a weird place surrounded by all these crazy creatures. Some of them are unkillable. So yes, I did like playing as Ashley, and I would definitely like to see that in future Resident Evil games. Maybe not to the extent they went with Ashley, but some similar, you know? Another thing I want to talk about is the guns. S tier. Completely S tier. Some of the best I've ever used in the VR game, and so easy to handle. Another thing I do like about how Capcom handled just the general kind of accessibility in this game is they gave you hella options to really customize the way you want to use your weapons. So you can choose a more arcadey, you know, kind of style where, you know, the gun reloads itself, you only press a button, or you can do it yourself, which I really enjoy because I feel like it immerses you more into the game and kind of gives you kind of like a, you know, appreciation for how fast some characters have to reload weapons in tense situations. But I feel like as a VR person myself, immersion is the main thing for me. I feel like physically handling the gun is kind of the way to go. But I do love when VR games make the weapons really punchy and you can really feel the impact of the bullets when you shoot an enemy. And I feel like Resident Evil does that so well, and they really encapsulated it in its VR version. The gun challenge sections where you have to shoot targets or enemies from a distance, and it added a lot of layers of fun to the game and added a lot of difficulty too. Some of those parts are really hard, but you gotta do those parts to get certain unlockables and stuff like that. So I feel like it's pretty rewarding at the end of the day. Also, I gotta admit that the boss fights really make this game. There's a few boss fights that I had in this game where I was like, bro, what am I even fighting? They were really cinematic and had some of the craziest environments in terms of just boss levels. My most hated fight probably in the whole game was Krauser. Krauser was very hard to beat because he was just so fast and it was just not fun. I wish they would have kind of developed Krauser's character more, because it's like, yeah, this Leon knows this guy. He like, okay, how does he know this guy? Yeah, he used to fight with him. Okay, why is he on the other side of the team now? He just is. I'm like, okay, cool. So I wish they would have developed Krauser a little bit more, but you know, it is what it is. It's kind of too late now. Overall, I would give a Resident Evil 4 boss fight. It's a 10 out of 10. You can't really go wrong. They kind of are self-explanatory. I mean, shoot the big glowing thing or the big pussy spot, but it's really fun to do. And now we gotta talk about the man himself, Leon Kennedy. Leon, and it's funny because I call Leon light skin because he does light skin stuff. If you know, you know. Sin City was an savior. And no, I won't be explaining. Like the stuff Leon does in this game is so nonsensical that it's almost anime-like. There was a point in the game where there's two chainsaws on both sides of him. You know what he does? Instead of just taking a step back, this man does a whole backflip. He does a whole backflip for no reason. Bruh. Leon is probably unintentionally hilarious, and it's great. I'm like, he makes the game really great because you're like, what is Leon gonna do next? Leon also has some pretty cold one-liners during the game. I'm not gonna lie, Leon kind of a cool dude, man. He's kind of a cool dude. But I will say, him getting repeatedly played by Ada Wong is probably one of the most nonsensical parts of the game, because I'm like, okay, Leon, you can't be that in love with Ada, right? And it's like, it's obvious she's up to no good. And he just like, Ada. It's funny, man. There's a lot of funny things about this game, and it's real Resident Evil. Like, it's how I can describe RE4. I was like, it's not my first Resident Evil because I played RE7, played RE8, and I played RE2. So it's not my first Resident Evil, but it's just like, it's just kind of funny. So overall, guys, Resident Evil 4 on VR is amazing. I just wanted to yap about the game, to be honest with you. There was no type of sense of reason to this video. But I just want to talk about a really good game that I love, and I think you guys will love too, especially if you're a person who has a PlayStation 5 and wants to play on PSVR2, or even if you're a person on PC who wants to mod RE4. Like, this game needs to be played in VR because you will not regret it. To this day, I will still give Resident Evil 4 VR a 10 out of 10. Need to be played again. All right, guys, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you hit the notification bell because a lot of you guys don't do that. Also, make sure you guys check out my Cat VR fitness challenge. I'm doing a fitness challenge with a VR treadmill. I think a lot of you guys will be interested in that. It's not PSVR2 related, it's general VR related and fitness related. And you guys are gonna watch me slowly lose weight over the next few months using the VR treadmill plus weights plus, you know, counting calories, all the other good stuff. But definitely keep an eye on my TikTok and my YouTube live streams. I have a lot more coming up. And make sure you go to VR.com, get some prescription lenses for your PSVR2 because you definitely gonna need them if you can't see like me. Use code MartydudeVR for 10% off. With that being said, we MartydudeVR, and remember, I'm just a dude with a VR headset. Peace.